Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast where you'll hear conversations with academic librarians, technologists, researchers, and authors whose work is laying the foundation for higher education's future. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. In this four-part series, which is brought to you with support from Gale, I'm excited to be joined by Barbie Keiser, president of Barbie Keiser, Inc. Barbie is an information resources management consultant and a longtime industry watcher, and for more than 30 years, she's helped library leaders maximize the latest developments in information products and services. Barbie joins us to discuss the latest developments in scholarly communications. There are a variety of market forces that are keeping the field in a state of perpetual change. New tech and new policies are affecting every stage of the scholarly communications lifecycle, from the very beginnings of a research project all the way through to its publication and use by others. In this final episode of our four-part series, we turn our gaze to the horizon and discuss how AI tools will impact ScholComm and how open access will continue to evolve. Okay, so let's sort of start looking ahead onto the horizon and see what's coming our way. And at the end of the last episode, you just mentioned artificial intelligence, so of course that's on everybody's mind. And it's remarkable how quickly this has emerged as a primary point of concern. So, what's your take on how AI and AI tools will be impacting scholarly communication?
So I won't deal with the negative because so many people are dealing with the negative now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Disinformation, misinformation, malinformation. But there are tools that are coming up and coming to help us, and we should be aware of that.
Hmm.
But I prefer to look at the positive side of this. This is such a recent and fast changing area with new tools coming about every day. But most people talk about ChatGPT or
Mm-hmm.
the Bing or Bard. And there are so many small startups that are doing some interesting things that we can use in libraries. So I've been developing an Airtable, just on here are the things that librarians do, and here are all the tools that could change and support that.
Mm-hmm.
So to give the ChatGPT a plug, I'd say we're in libraries, we need to hire other librarians, new librarians, take your job description, upload it, and then ask it, what questions should I ask somebody coming in for an interview for that position?
Hmm.
Seems pretty easy to me. It's amazing what you can come back with. Try putting your own job description up there and see what happens. There are discovery tools.
Mm-hmm.
So, and each one works differently, but for some, you just need to enter the topic you want to track. For some, you need to upload one example of a research study that you like, and then it goes out and discovers them. So I'm thinking of Research Rabbit, I'm thinking of Kinios, I'm thinking of Our Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I love Our Discovery for one reason, and it's that I don't teach KM or competitive intelligence every semester. And I don't want to keep going in and looking at the new research. And what it does is delivers 1 to 3 articles a day to me from the literature about that topic.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. Just enough
Yeah.
for me to keep aware, but not overburdening me.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of other things that we do that we could use AI for. So, and I'm hoping that SpringShare is listening, but if you're using their products for LibChat, you have a semester's worth of questions that have been asked. Can you download them, upload them to ChatGPT and say, okay, analyze these for the English 101 class and tell me the questions that were asked for that and the responses. I look at those and then I can update my libguide with those specific answers. So I no longer have FAQs for the library. I have FAQs for every student for every class.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So you can do those kinds of things. You could, there are questions. So if you are uploading, if you have a research assignment that you want to give to a student, you could upload a paper and say, tell me the questions
Hmm.
that I should ask. So I don't necessarily say I want to use those questions, but how much easier is it for me to edit their Quizify or Question Well questions
Hmm.
rather than coming up with my own? I'm thinking about the micro learning that we do in the library. So instead of creating these small little how to's, these videos that we're all doing the same thing. I don't know why we don't point to one and say, this is an emblematic of this and call it a day. But there's 7 taps, there's Pathwrite. You can say, create a series of modules to develop a micro learning project. You can use text to voice to make sure that you don't have to spend time editing the recording. So you can just say, okay, here's what I want to say, and choose a voice and say it and call it a day. You saved so much time. It takes me an hour to edit an hour. So you can do that, create a syllabus. And why not add a badge to the end of that so that students can take that and add it to their resume? I can think of students where English is a second language. So I use Udly. I think it's Yoodli. I want to say to practice your elevator speech. It tells you how many ums you have. Toastmasters uses it.
Mm.
So I think that there are those kinds of tools. I can think of other things. For example, we all have libguides and we do these presentations and then students forget.
Hmm.
So why not for each libguide, go through our path and use guide, again, different spelling, it's GIDDE. I know this one because I do use it. But it sits in your browser and you just click it on and it watches where you're clicking in the libguide. And then it discusses and first close, open up this, and then you want to look at this, and then you want to go to this database. You can use AI tools for literature reviews. I love Elicit. It's my favorite go-to tool now for so many things. There are meeting recordings and summarizations. So you can use 4149 or Supernormal to record a Zoom session and summarize it so you don't have to have meeting notes. So there are all sorts of ways that libraries can use these AI tools. And I think there are some that are very specific, and like Guide, it was developed for marketers who
Hmm.
wanted to do online demos of their product. Well, that's what we're doing too.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
LibGuide is our product.
This is great. Selfishly, I've been actually writing all this down as you've been talking about it. I definitely want
And
to
this
check,
is okay, so I have I use Diigo, Diigo for my bookmarks.
mm-hmm.
And I open them up to my students all the time, but I've got 20,000 of these bookmarks
Wow.
in, and I'm a librarian, so I
Sure.
organize very well. I have 203 folders and topics, and they're in there. And so if you want my AI folder, just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, so let's move from AI to OA. And I'm wondering if you could just, I think a lot of our audience is pretty caught up on OA, but like it's also changing fairly quickly. And I'm wondering, if you could help us make sense of the landscape we're in now, and where libraries kind of fit in there.
Ruth Pagel and I wrote report for LBTA 2022, and I always forget what that stands for. It's the old Bowker Annual,
Yeah.
but it's on SDGs and the scholarly community that covered how scholarship and publishers and academic institutions and associations and libraries address the 17 development goals, sustainable development goals.
Right.
So for the 2024, we're applying that same approach to open access. So it's really early days in the
Cool.
research, but I think I see libraries and vendors moving in a direction that's similar to reserves. And, that was such a horrible thing. An instructor would come and say, put this book on reserve, and you'd have an hour reserve a day, an overnight, a week, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And who had access to it. And then we moved to the online and then the Canvas, and then it's integrated. And then somebody else takes care of the copyright issues and everything is all set. And I see that same approach to OA. I think that somebody is going to step in and say, we've got to help libraries manage this, whether it's Lean Library or Guides on the Side or the Galaxy Research Solutions that helped us so much in saying to students, if you're on Google Scholar and you see this button over here, just press it and you'll be taken to something that's closed but available to you. And I think we're going to have that same kind of thing in managing the payments, the access, the copyright issues. We made it so complicated in the early days with the gold and the green OA and now the
Right.
diamond. We've got to simplify this if it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are international organizations, particularly those dealing with the global south, that are making strides, but it's really slow. And I'm hoping that by I'm going to say February or so, I'll have a better answer for you on this, but that's where we are now.
Yeah. Do you think, there's so many mandates attached to OA and or sort of pushing OA. Are we going to end up with, is this going to be mandatory for everybody, or is there going to be still room for paywalled content?
I think paywall is here for a long time, but
Yeah.
I'll go back to I wrote a book chapter for Mimi Drake, the dean of the Georgia Tech Libraries,
Mm-hmm.
several years ago, on public knowledge called "The Future is Open."
Mm-hmm.
And I strongly believe we're slow. I mean, it's been 200 years and the government is just now opening and making things transparent. So it may be another 200 years. I won't see it. But I think the future is really open.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, that's all the time we have, Barbie. Thank you so much for joining us. This was excellent.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
You just heard from Barbie Keiser. Barbie is president of Barbie Keiser Inc. and an information resources management consultant. This 4-part series is brought to you with support from Gale. As always, underwriting opportunities for the Authority File podcast are directed by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, with support from digital media assistant Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.